The night was heavy with tension as Sunny found himself standing at the edge of the forest. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and the faint rustling of leaves. He could feel the weight of the first nightmare pressing down on him, a constant reminder of the horrors he had faced. His heart raced as he clutched the silver bell tightly in his hand. The memory of its chime still echoed in his mind, a sound that had saved him more than once. But now he was alone, and the shadows around him seemed to grow darker with every passing moment. Sunny took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. He knew he couldn't afford to hesitate. The creatures of the nightmare were always lurking, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. He had to keep moving, no matter how much his body screamed for rest. As he stepped forward, a faint glow caught his eye. It was the puppeteer's shroud, floating gently in the air, as if guiding him. Sunny reached out, his fingers brushing against the fabric. It felt cold, yet comforting. But before he could take another step, a low growl echoed through the trees. Sunny froze, his eyes darting around as he tried to locate the source of the sound. His grip on the silver bell tightened, and he whispered to himself,
"Not again. Not now."
The growl grew louder, and suddenly a massive creature emerged from the shadows. Its eyes glowed with a malevolent light, and its claws gleamed like daggers. Sunny's mind raced as he tried to recall everything he had learned in the first nightmare. He knew he couldn't fight it head-on. His only chance was to outsmart it. With a quick motion, he rang the silver bell, the sound piercing through the night. The creature hesitated, its movements slowing as if confused. Sunny didn't waste a second. He turned and ran, the puppeteer's shroud trailing behind him like a ghostly banner. His heart pounded in his chest, but he forced himself to focus. He had to find a way out, or this would be the end. As he ran, the forest seemed to twist and shift around him, the trees closing in like a trap. But Sunny refused to give up. He could feel the energy of the shroud wrapping around him, giving him strength. He whispered,
"I won't die here. Not like this."
Finally, he burst into a clearing, the moonlight bathing the area in a soft glow. He turned, expecting the creature to be right behind him, but the forest was silent. For now, he was safe. Sunny collapsed to his knees, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He looked down at the silver bell and the puppeteer's shroud, gratitude washing over him. They had saved him once again. But he knew this was only the beginning. The nightmare was far from over. As he stood, a voice echoed in his mind, cold and unyielding.
"You cannot escape forever, Sunless."
Sunny clenched his fists, his resolve hardening. He would face whatever came next, no matter the cost. Next, Sunny speaks.
"I'm not running anymore. Whatever it takes, I'll survive."
Sunny opened his eyes, the armored ceiling of the police station's vault looming above him. The cold that had seeped into his bones during the nightmare was gone, replaced by a newfound vitality. He felt no pain, no lingering wounds, just the overwhelming relief of survival. As he took in his surroundings, his gaze fell on a woman sitting beside his bed. She was stunning, with raven black hair and icy blue eyes. Her pale skin seemed almost otherworldly, and her dark blue uniform marked her as someone of importance. Sunny's heart raced as he realized who she was. The 3 stars on her shoulder insignia indicated she was an ascended master. He had never met someone so powerful before, and her presence was both intimidating and mesmerizing. The woman stretched lazily, her movements casual but commanding. Sunny couldn't help but stare, his mind racing with questions. But before he could speak, she caught his gaze and asked,
"What are you looking at?"
Sunny opened his mouth to respond, but the words that came out were not what he intended.
"Your breasts."
He blurted, his eyes widening in horror. The flaw, his inability to lie, had betrayed him. The woman's expression darkened, and before Sunny could react, she slapped him across the face. The force of the blow turned his head, and for a moment he saw stars. He braced himself for worse, but she simply crossed her arms and said,
"Are you awake now?"
Sunny nodded carefully, his cheeks still stinging. He tried to think of something diplomatic to say, but his flaw took over again.
"I've seen plenty but no one as beautiful as you,"
he admitted, his face turning red. The woman stared at him for a moment, then burst into laughter.
I see you haven't met many awakened.
She said.
By our standards, I'm below average. As your soul core develops, your body sheds imperfections. Live long enough, and you might become a flower boy yourself.
Sunny glanced at her doubtfully, but she didn't elaborate. Instead, she introduced herself.
I am Ascended Jet. You can call me Master Jet. I've been on watch duty for the past 3 days, monitoring your nightmare.
Sunny hesitated, then asked, "Why would a master be put on watch duty? Isn't that below your pay grade?" Jet gave him a dark look.
You're smarter than you seem. Recently, there's been a surge of gates opening in this sector. Most of the local awakened are either wounded, occupied, or dead. It's always like this close to the winter solstice.
She undid the final restraint on his bed and stepped back.
Plus, not many awakened choose to work directly for the government. It's not exactly lucrative or glamorous. Would you abandon wealth and fame to work long hours and risk your life, fueled only by duty?
Sunny wanted to say something flattering, but his flaw took over again.
Of course not. I'm not an idiot.
He blurted, immediately regretting it. Jet stared at him for a moment, then smiled.
See, I was right. You really are smart.
Next, Sunny speaks.
Thank you, Master Jet. I'll remember your advice.
Sunny stood under the hot shower, letting the water wash away the lingering scent of the nightmare. The warmth was a stark contrast to the cold, dark horrors he had endured. For a moment, he allowed himself to relax, pushing aside the looming dread of his flaw. As he dried off, he caught his reflection in the mirror. His body had changed subtly, his skin healthier, his muscles more defined. He no longer looked frail, but he was still far from the image of a powerful awakened. The thought of becoming a flower boy made him grimace. Then something strange happened. His shadow in the mirror seemed to move on its own, lowering its head as if face-palming. Sunny spun around, staring at his shadow on the floor. It looked normal now, mimicking his every move.
Did you just move?
He asked, glaring at the shadow. It shook its head, but Sunny wasn't convinced. He closed his eyes, focusing inward, and suddenly felt a new sense of connection to the shadows around him. He opened his eyes and willed his shadow to raise an arm. It obeyed. He made it sit, stand, and even change shape. But when he commanded it to strike the towel rack, its kick passed harmlessly through the towels. Sunny sighed, disappointed.
All right. I'll explore this later.
He muttered, wrapping a towel around himself. He dressed in a clean police-issued tracksuit and headed to the cafeteria, where Master Jet was waiting with 2 trays of synthetic food. Sunny sat down and began eating ravenously. As he ate, his thoughts wandered. The spell had told him to find a master, and here was Master Jet. He tried to imagine being her obedient slave, but the idea felt absurd. Then Jet asked,
What are you thinking about?
Sunny choked on his food, the flaw forcing him to answer.
I was thinking that it would be a perfect moment for you to ask me about what I am thinking.
He admitted, his face red. Jet gave him a strange look but didn't press further. Instead, she explained his options.
You can prepare for the dream realm on your own, or you can enroll in the Awakened Academy. They'll provide food, lodging, and training. It's not much time, but it's better than nothing.
Sunny thought about it. Free lodging and food sounded tempting, and the academy would let him meet others entering the dream realm. Some might become allies or enemies. But it was a risk he had to take.
I want to go to the academy.
He said finally. Jet nodded, satisfied.
Good choice. I'll take you there.
Next, Sunny speaks.
Thank you, Master Jet. I'll make the most of it.